Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
All right. It's Mike and Blaine. This is episode 112. We are in season 3. We are quickly coming up at the end of season 3. I am Mike Byland, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is my partner, Blaine Birch. He is the CEO and founder of Dry Run. Blaine, what's up, my man?
Thursday again. I've been looking forward to this all week. It's been a busy week, and it's awesome to just kind of sit down, relax, and chat business instead of just being embroiled in it. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's almost like we come out of the fight just for a little fun.
Just lift our heads above water for a little bit, chat about it, and then dive right back in.
All right, so today we're going to talk about something that I kind of ran across this week. We're going to talk about bankruptcies. But we just now meant, another idea came to my head. I posted on my social media last week this, it's kind of an infographic about what it feels like to be successful, like an entrepreneur. And it had like early mornings and late nights and, being your own cheerleader and all these things. And I'm like going, that describes what it's like. That's what it feels like. Yep. Right off the bat, old high school friend puts on a comment saying, well, if that's what it's like to be successful, I don't want it. That's why you work for a big corporation. You just want to go in, clock in and get paid, and that's it. Right.
Well, man, you like hit the nail on the head because when you said just to be successful, and I just started thinking, well, man, how does that feel? Like it is a slog, and who is not slogging? And then that pops up and you go, yeah, everybody's grinding, everybody's slogging, everybody's hustling, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's more power to people that can just go clock in, right? Just, get up, go to work, go home and put it away. That's never been me. Never been me. I couldn't even do it as a state trooper when that's what I was supposed to do. I was still thinking about a case, or I was thinking about a report, or I was thinking about what I was going to do the next day. I was always thinking. That's why I knew it wasn't the right job for me, because I couldn't turn it off. Yeah,
exactly. Entrepreneurs, and I think that's it's a fraternity of people globally, from all types of backgrounds, ages, everything. And you know what? We can all sit down and talk, and we're going to talk the same way because it's the same struggle and it's the same challenge, and they all want to do the same thing. It's just go and grind it out, and you can't turn it off. It's so hard to turn it off, right?
Yeah. You know what I don't want to turn off is having a beer with you.
Oh yeah, no word.
So, hey, let's try to do something. Maybe we can fall into a habit when we announce the beer. That's when we give our elevator pitch, right? Because remember, Larry and everybody else in the world wanted us to do more self-promotion up front. So I think maybe that's it feels like it's the right place. Hey, here's my beer. Oh, by the way, it's Dry Run.
That's a super good idea. And man, one of these days we'll actually come up with a little pitch and actually practice it instead of right off the cuff. But that's what we're doing again yet today. And I will mention our beer sponsor today too. But first of all, so I'm looking for a beer to see like what matches like today's kind of dour topic of bankruptcy. But it's we're taking the angle of how can you move forward and how can you avoid it, right? Because there's a lot going on. And what I came up with was the fact that my fridge is almost empty of beer because we're heading south soon. So it was like, I guess it's that one. And so this is what I got today. And it is Flying Monkeys Juicy Ass IPA. And you know what? Probably need a juicy ass IPA today. And this is courtesy of our beer sponsor, Rachel Barnett with Gentle Frog. So I want to mention her that if you are out there, you have a business, you need to know how to use QuickBooks. She is the one to talk to. She will get you going. It'll be much easier than you ever thought, and it'll get much further than you ever thought really quickly. So check out Rachel Barnett, Gentle Frog, and she can get you going on that. Now, your idea of let's just do a kind of mini pitch on what we're doing. And you know what? Today's topic is about businesses. We're going to get into it, but there were stats how bankruptcies are on the rise again. This is the same as back in 2008. You literally have that in the description. That is where Dry Run comes from. I had a creative agency for over a decade. We got hit in 2008 and we found our way through it. And in fact, we bounced back really quick, and actually we bounced back really well, to be honest. And I found our way through spreadsheets that showed me the path forward. And it showed me what it cost to stay in business every month. It showed me what was in our pipeline and when we thought that money was going to land. It showed me what cash we had and when we were going to run out of cash and did we have enough to make payroll. And it allowed me to make all the moves that we needed to do to survive, to thrive, to grow, to focus on sales when I needed to focus on sales, focus on operations when I need to focus on operations. And fast forward a few years, I sold that business and started Dry Run to do that in a way that is like 90% faster than a spreadsheet, 90% easier than a spreadsheet, and a hell of a lot more accurate. So come talk with us at Dry Run, because that's what we're all about. Is we are trying to help you avoid that bankruptcy conversation and figure out your way through. And actually, while I'm on the topic of this, we actually had a business a couple of years ago. They came to us with their CPA and they were coming to us to use Dry Run to figure out how and when they were going to wrap up their business, which is not what Dry Run is intended for, but it can be used that way. And the amazing part is they started to use Dry Run. They started modeling scenarios, and I kid you not, they found a way to survive by looking at that. And it was just one of the coolest things that we've ever heard at Dry Run is they came in ready to shut her down and they left going, we have a path forward. And so
you saved
come and
life.
talk with us. Yeah, absolutely. We saved a business and it was such a cool experience to hear them tell us that. So
yeah, right on. Very cool. So, hey, thank you, Rachel, by the way. I mean, Rachel has always been a long-time friend of mine. And if you want to learn QuickBooks, if you want to go from 0 to 60, I think that's what we said yesterday, go to 0 to 60. I don't know anything about QuickBooks, but I want to go and get up to speed as fast as I can. Check out Gentle Frog, right? So, all right. So my beer, a company a brewery I've never heard of before. So this is kind of interesting. It's called Second Pitch Beer Company, right?
Nice.
Second Pitch, and they're believe it or not, they're right out of San Antonio. I was like, dude, they're in your backyard. How'd you not hear about them? Hey, sometimes there's little companies just around you just never hear of, or maybe they're not that old, or maybe they're older than I know. I just hadn't heard of them. So, I actually, now I'm thinking about it, it doesn't fit the topic as well. It could if I kind of force it in. It'd be better for a negotiation, right? A negotiation type one, because it's called the Meat in the Middle India Pale Ale, right? 6.5 APV, but meat in the middle is what I'm going to have today. So Second Pitch, right? So right here in San Antonio, I'm going to have to stop by, right? If I like this, I'm going to have to stop by. So anyway, all right. So what am I? Who am I, right? I'm Cashflow Mike. What I do is, based on the topic, I help businesses stay in business. Ooh, how you like that?
Nice.
I help you stay in business. This program that I built, the Clear Path to Cash, I started in 2012. Why? Because guess who started a restaurant in 2007? Yeah, me. Yeah. Right. So guess what happened in 2008? Yeah, the bankers burnt the world down. So after that happened, you learn real fast survival tactics. And what it comes back to is the basics and understanding how much money you have versus how much money you need, and being able to make the right course correction at the right time. I teach you how to do that, right? So I teach you how to do the math, to understand when you should make the correction so you don't have the same problems as people do when they file bankruptcy. So that's where we're at. You can go see me at cashflowmike.com and get a free download of my book, The 7-Minute Conversation, which teaches you how to analyze any company's financial statements in 7 minutes or less. 6 calculations, 7 minutes. You'll know more about any company than anybody else does, even the owner.
Nice.
I've got a face for radio, man. I'm telling you.
We both do.
There you go.
You have the hair for TV. I have the hair for radio.
I do have the hair for TV, right? So I'm a hair model. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to say that again. I mean, you can make fun of my hair all you want to, but
I'm not making fun of it.
this hair made a company a bunch of money.
Yeah, I'm not making fun of it, man.
It didn't make me a bunch of money, but it made other people a bunch of money.
Well, at least somebody benefited. So that's good.
Yeah, there you go. If you don't know what we're talking about, hey, go check out Hims. Look for an infomercial with a guy like me, promoting Hims, because I actually, I'd like to say that I was the hair club for men guy, where not only am I the president, I'm also a client. But no, I'm just a client.
Man,
a client, but a successful one.
We got to look, because if that's on YouTube, we will put it on the Facebook page so you guys can check that out.
I got it. I got the commercial. Nice. I got the commercial. I don't think I've got the 30-minute infomercial. It might be out there somewhere, but I mean, who's going to watch me talk about hair for 30
Just need the commercial. Yeah.
By the way, she's not going to like it. Courtney's in the infomercial. And I think the commercial, right? Because she made the B-roll. She's in, right? So if you want to see what Courtney looks like, go look for that Hims commercial.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And she's telling me how wonderful my hair is, of course.
Yeah. You're going to get your ass kicked after this if she hears this.
Oh, yeah. She told me last week, I never listen to your podcast. So I'm like, not even
You're good. You're golden. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, if you're out there listening to the podcast and you know Courtney, keep it on the down low.
Don't say anything. It's just between us close friends here.
That's right. Just us podcast buddies, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
All right. Here's what's happening next week, Monday. I get on a plane. I go to Arizona. And I'm teaching business owner seminars, financial literacy for the National Bank of Arizona in both Phoenix and in Tucson. And yes, I'm going to miss you.
By days, just a few days. That sucks, but
by days. So, but you know me, I always try to come back to Arizona. I like Arizona. Right. Probably will end up there one of these days. Who knows?
Yeah, nice.
But here's the thing: when I think about banks, I think about I don't know why the word bankruptcy comes into my mind. But when I first started the Clear Path to Cash and I put this together, there was a stat that stuck out, and I'm like, going, my God, that seems like it's huge. And it was that, 50,000 on average between 2009 and 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, that time frame. 50,000 businesses were filing bankruptcy every year. It's a ton, right? 50,000. And believe it or not, at that point in time, 35% of them had profit on paper.
Yeah.
Think about that. They thought they were making money on their profit and loss of their income statement. They were making money. They showed money. You're like going, hey, I got it. How come they couldn't pay their bills? Right. I mean, that's a crazy, misconnect.
There was one study around that time. Was it Fin Pacific or something like that? That actually showed 70% of businesses that failed were actually profitable on paper. That's how high that number can be, right? Like, so there's a 35, 70, probably somewhere in the middle, but that is epically high when you think about that, because you think if a business is profitable, they're good. Like, no, not even close. If they don't get money coming in the door, doesn't matter what their profit statement says, right?
Yeah. So I was preparing for a webinar on Wednesday for Insightful Accountant. I'm like going, I just want to get some stats. Where is this at? I know it used to be at 50, but I haven't looked at it in a few years. It had dropped steadily from 2011, 12, just boom, boom, boom. I mean, business owners were staying in business. They were starting to thrive, to come back. It had dropped to an average, as of last year, an average of 18,000. Think about the decrease, right? 50,000 a year to 18,000 a year, man. That's half. I mean, that's a wonderful statistic to see that, people were staying in business, except for the last 12 months from July, right, to June. It's like a rolling 12 months. So think about, I guess it'd be June to July of 2022, July 2022 to June 2023. That's as close as I could get.
Yeah.
There was an increase, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today. There was an increase in the last 12 months of 23% in 1 year.
Oh man. Yeah.
Right? So 18, so we'll just round it up to 20. That's 4,000 more businesses filed bankruptcy. Right? My mission over at Cashflow Mike is to eliminate cash flow as the reason that you fail. Right? Bankruptcy is a strong indication that you failed because of cash flow. This is the number that we should measure ourselves by if we're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Did we make an impact?
And unfortunately, it's likely to go up. I think there's a lot of people out there that maybe not in the business community, because we know how much of a struggle it is, but they think that the pandemic is over, so businesses that survive are all good to go. And what they don't realize is those businesses over those 2-3 years got hammered, and they built up a lot of debt. And even if the market started to creep back, that debt is still there. And there's the banks are calling loans up in Canada here. The feds are calling some of those they're calling them CEBA loans, but it's like kind of the COVID time. Well, they're calling these loans back, and these businesses are already racked with debt. And the impact of this is going to go on for a while, because now you tag on high interest rates and supply chain issues and massive changes in the market and the way people are buying. This is a rough time right now, and it's not getting better in the next year or two. It's going to be a struggle. So, for every business owner out there, all they can do is batten down the hatches and say, how do I run lean? And know what's happening in your business, so you're not getting some nasty surprise.
Well, the hardest thing about the debt is that that most of it's just interest, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like, oh, damn, every time I write this check, every time I make this payment, I'm only taking a little bit of my debt away, and most of the rest of it's going to the person. And you know what? Kind of get it. That's how the lending companies make money. But man, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Now, I teach a concept called misfinancing, and I'm going to ask everybody that listens to this call, if you're a small business owner, to look for misfinancing. And you're like, all right, what the hell is that, Mike? It's basically this. It's you've used the wrong loan product to buy something, right? You've used the wrong type of debt. Now, I'm going to tell you the rule, and then I'm going to give you just a generic example about what it means. The rule in borrowing is this: the length of the loan should match the life of the asset, right? So that's as simple as I can make it. The length of the loan should match the life of the asset. And here's what that means. Yeah. If I can depreciate something for 5 years, if you're not going to use cash, you buy it with a 5-year term loan. That way, when depreciation ends, so does the payment, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what happens is that, and it happens to a lot of it. It happened to me. It happened to me at the restaurant, because nobody ever walks out the door and goes, I'm going to misfinance my company today, right? It just happens because you make an instant decision to fix a problem. I had a cooler, right? A cooler in if you ever seen those, look behind the bar, where they got those big coolers. They're like 12 foot long, and they got sliding doors on the top, and they reach down inside and they grab beers. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Those things have these massive compressors off on one side of them. And that's what keeps the whole thing cool, right? So the beer's chilly. Well, I walked in one morning, and there's this brown goo just oozing out across the floor, right? Because the brown goo is because the floor had kind of rusted through. You're not looking through these things. You're not lifting it up like, hey, what's the floor look like?
What's underneath? Yeah.
But there's this brown goo because the compressor had failed, and all of this goo just kind of came out of it. I'm like, oh, that's the compressor. Here's the thing I can tell you about that type of piece of equipment. It will cost you just as much to repair the compressor as buy a new one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Just buy a new one, right? So
that's almost everything today. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just buy a new one. So I jump in the truck. I go to the restaurant supply store. I say, hey, I need a cooler. They said, no problem. What size? I tell them the size. They say, we'll put it in the truck. How do you want to pay for it? I threw out my credit card. I don't know what it is. I'll say $7,500 later, I'm out the door. Save the day. I'm back pulling bottles out of one, putting them in the new, trying to get rid of the old cooler, right? I'm thinking everything's fine. Now, here's what happens. I put it on a credit card, which you're supposed to pay off every single, year. Basically, I mean, you're not supposed to carry a balance on these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The best example I can give you on why you wouldn't do this is: would you buy a house with a credit card?
Oh yeah, no. Like, well, I never carry a credit card balance ever. Their interest rates are bonkers, so I never. So credit card companies hate me because I pay off everything all the time, guaranteed. Right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't buy a house on one, right?
No.
Because interest rates on a credit card right now are somewhere between 15 and 20 some percent.
Yeah.
Mortgages are down around 5, 6, 7, 8%, somewhere in there. The difference is in the interest, and you don't even pay attention to it. You just make the payment, like you would normally. You don't pay attention to how much it's sucking cash out of the company in the form of interest. You just never see it.
Yeah.
So what I do is, I try to help people say, okay, well, what did we buy? How did we pay for it? Because if we didn't use cash or long-term debt for something we can depreciate, then we're probably paying too much interest. Let's try to refinance that, right? And bring your payments down, keep more cash in the company. And that's where I'm going to. When you said debt, I'm not going, hey, if you're using debt, use the right type of debt for the product, because you might be paying too much.
Yeah, and the sad part, like, I'm up here in Canada. I don't know what it's like in the States, but the sad part here is banks are so conservative that it's a tough time for businesses right now. Try and find a bank that'll give you money. Like, it's a hard. If you find somebody, you're not going to probably have as many options as you want, and so it makes it a really big challenge, right? Like, they'll lend you money when you don't need it, but when you actually need it, which is a lot of businesses right now, they don't want to give it to you, right?
Yeah, but that's a critical statement. You said they'll give it to you when you don't need it, because when they think you need it is different than when you think you need it. Most people will wait too long. They'll wait till nobody can help you before they say help, right? It's like your nose is already almost underwater.
Really well. And I made an appointment with our banker because I thought, we're doing well, and we're growing fast, and we've got some pretty good cash in the bank. So I went in and I sat down with the banker and I said, hey, like, we're in pretty good shape here. Is this a good, like, I would like to extend our line of credit and get a much larger line of credit because we're growing fast and we're healthy. Like, we're good. We got a lot of cash on hand, but this is a good time to be able to this is the time when you go in and you go, yeah, we're doing good. Like, let's extend that line of credit so that as we're growing, if we have to buy equipment and do all this stuff, we've got the capacity. We're not even worried about that. Right. And so she's okay. Yep. Roger. And then a couple of days later, I get a phone call and this is, early days. I can't remember if it was even emailed to us, but she had her loan documents ready. She wanted to loan us money. Like, where did the wires get crossed here? We got lots of money. Look at our account. We got money in the bank. We're growing fast. We wanted to have more flexibility with line of credit, and she was wanted me to sign a loan document. And I couldn't figure out, like, where did the wires get crossed here? So I actually went to my personal banker and I said, hey man, if you don't find me a banker that knows what the hell they're doing, we are gone by like this time next week to a different bank. And they're not supposed to recommend other people, but he was kind of slid across the table, go talk to this guy. And that's when we got a really good business banker until the guy retired. That was the only guy we used for years, because this is someone that we found was virtually completely tone deaf to us. And it was such a reminder how important it is to have a really good banker that understands business, understands your business and one you trust, and an accountant that understands your business and one that you can trust, and a lawyer that can understand your business and one that you can trust, because those resources can make the difference between making it and breaking it, or like you said, taking money that is bad money.
Yeah, exactly right. So, with banks, I know we already had this argument. You always think I'm pro bank.
More than me. Yeah.
I'm not pro bad bank. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. When Silicon Valley did their thing, you blamed it on me because I was defending them. I wasn't defending them. I was defending the strategy.
Yeah, and I was calling them all assholes, so I'll take that position.
All right. So, but here was the thing, right? They put it right at, first of all, loan officer, relationship manager, that's salesman, right? That's the bank sales force. The only way they make money is by giving you money. So when people say, oh, the banks aren't giving out money, well, they are. They didn't change their risk tolerance. You just fell outside of it. Your performance as a business is not good enough to lend to. People forget that. They want to say, oh, the bankers are assholes. Well, wait a second. Okay. All they're doing is reading your numbers, right? They're reading your numbers. And you say, well, we had to wait for too long. Well, maybe you should have that conversation sooner and understood what they were looking for. All right. But I'm going to blame the bank too, because that is a relationship manager problem, right? If you're going to call yourself relationship manager, you better have a relationship with me. And the big bank I used to do business with did not. They would push the special of the month. They would say, hey, we have a new credit card special, or we have new merchant processing, or this. I mean, it was whatever. They didn't even care who I was. They were just saying, this is what I was told to push this month, so I'm pushing it. I got a call. All right, first of all, I owned a hotel staffing company, 3 restaurants. I had one vehicle on the balance sheet. Guess whose vehicle that was? Yeah, mine. One vehicle, just the one that I used to run around to the hotels and do my thing.
Yep.
Why on earth would you come to me and offer fleet leasing? Like, dude, you have my financial statements. You know I don't have a fleet. I don't have a one vehicle. I don't need fleet anything, right? So you just look dumb, right? Like the title of my book, Dumb, You Don't Understand My Business. I used to use that for bankers. Now I use it for business owners. But dumb still means the same thing. You got to understand your business.
Well, and like I feel quite privileged today because I have some awesome bankers. Like I've been really lucky, but that's over the years I've found that you can't just sort of settle for, if it's not working or if it's not the right fit, if it's not the right relationship, you have to find the right ones, because when you have a good relationship with your banker, again, accountant, lawyer, like you can get a lot of expert advice, and they have your back. And when they're the best ones, and when they're proactive and they say, you should look at this, they come out of the woodwork and go, you should look at this. You can do this. Here's something you might want to take a look at. That's what business owners need. And too many of them are, they don't want to talk with you until there's pressure to sell you something. If you get that indication, you're in the wrong bank or you have the wrong accountant or whatever, because there are amazing ones out there, and it can completely be a flip for your business. And we're talking about bankruptcy today. And that is a bit of that. Are they there to help you maybe stay afloat and rebound? Or are they just there to just help dig the hole, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, you used the word awesome. What makes your banker awesome? What do you like?
Well, number one, like you said, is a relationship. Because too many times I've been to banks where I don't know who the hell I'm talking with. You get shifted to different people all the time. For banks out there that run that way, you need to know that business owners want a relationship with a single person that's going to be there for the long term with you. And they know their stuff. They understand business. They're empathetic. And they're listening and actually delivering thoughts that actually make sense. And so that makes such a big difference. Like my bankers now, I can go and have a coffee with. I know who they are. I can call them anytime. And that that makes a huge difference, because I know there's other banks out there where it's like you don't have a name you can go to. You don't have somebody that you can trust, right?
You know, what's funny is I used to say there's things I hated about bankers. One of them was Lotto, and that's what you just described to me. Lotto is loan officer turnover, which means every time I go in the bank, there's a new person, right?
Yeah.
I have to tell my story over and over and over again. And the bank really never gets to know me because that person moved from bank A to bank B. And guess what? Then he's calling me from bank B, like going, hey, come to bank B. I'm better over here. I'm like going, that's a pain in the ass too. I don't want to have to just move banks every time a person does. The bank needs to figure out how to keep and retain good people, because that's where the relationship comes from. Don't make me chase you around the city.
Yeah.
Right?
And up here, I found a lot of the banks are, they're not allowed to say where they go. So you got to hunt and find them, and then force your way in the door if you want to stick with a person. But I would rather stick with a person than a location, even though you're chasing, right? But that's just one factor. But it can be an important one. It can be an important one for staving off some of these issues to survive for another day. It's like one of our clients said one time. They said, if I wasn't using dry run, I wouldn't have been equipped to stay in the fight long enough and know that I can stay in the fight long enough for when the windfall hit. And it did. It hit. They just had to be able to stick around, do the right things, play that long game, and then suddenly it's like, oh shit, now we're good. Now we're flush, right?
Hey, speaking of sticking around, if you want to learn strategies that will help your business stay in business and you want to keep more cash in your pocket, go to cashflowmike.com. And I'm going to tell you about three different. First of all, this is October 2023, right? I have 3 live events. What's happening in my community is people are saying, we want more. We don't just want your course, Mike. We want more. We want more in depth. We want you to go into what these things are like and tell us, how to use them and deploy them. So I built 3 live events. They're coming up November. And you can go to my website, cashflowmike.com. In the footer is events, and you'll see all these events listed. But in November, I'm doing a Core Essentials, November 7th. All right. November 7th is Core Essentials. And what that is I'm going to take the basic core math, the ones that you need to be able to balance cash coming in versus cash going out, being able to find hidden cash in your business, being able to analyze all of the financial statements that you look at on a daily basis and make sense of them. All 3 of those, just the core things. And they're basically the core elements I built into the Clear Path to Cash app. I have an app that does all this for you. All of those will be taught for a 4-hour virtual presentation on November 7th. Then December 8th and 9th in person. This worked wonderful last time. We brought in people from all around the country into San Antonio. We met over at Trinity University. We're going to do that again for 2 days. I am going to break down how to use every strategy with every client, going through samples, going through examples, working one-on-one with you and teaching you how to do these strategies, just as an individual piece of how you analyze companies. And then on December 12th, another virtual event, the Clear Path to Cash Master Class, right? Which is I'm going to go over all the strategies and going more in depth how to deploy them in your company. So 3 different times, 3 live events, you and I can get together and we can really dig deep on how to stay in business and avoid bankruptcy, or more importantly, build transferable value and build a lifestyle-friendly company that you can be proud of. That's my commercial. What do you think? I did pretty good.
It's good. It's good. And I'll double down on that. This is the time to be proactive. Don't wait till you're on death's door and then you're trying to survive. And that's a tough one. No banker wants to hear you come in and say, "Hey, I'm out of payroll. I can't make payroll on Friday. Can you give me money?" If you come in and say, "Yeah, according to my projections, we're gonna have a little dip 2 months out, but here's how it rebounds and we just need a little bridge." Yeah, they're much more likely to talk with you, right? So be proactive and take Mike's course before you're in desperate need, because then hopefully you'll never be in desperate need.
There you go. Thanks, man. Hey, it's interesting you said that. I mean, because there's warning signs to, that bankers look for. I mean, a negative cash flow. Let's set that one aside. Everybody knows that. If you're spending more than you're bringing in, well, I think it's pretty obvious to you and me and the banker that you need to cut expenses, right? As much as you can. But then there's other ones that people don't think about, right? Which is like, there's a relationship between AR and AP. So accounts receivable, how much your customers love you that they're willing to pay you. AP, how much do you love your vendors that you're willing to pay them? There's a relationship, and they call it AR AP mismatch. And what I mean by that is there's a calculation that converts, the amount of AR you have to sales and converts it to days, meaning it takes your customers so many days to pay you. Well, let's say that's 34 days, which means you're getting paid pretty fast, actually, right? 34 days if you're invoicing. But then they'll calculate the same thing for AP. How long does it take you to pay somebody? And let's say that number comes out to be 56. So I'm getting paid in 34 days, but I'm paying my bills in 56 days. That looks like a mismatch, because they're going to say, hey, you're getting paid. How come you're not paying? Right? What's happening in those extra 20 days that creates a cash flow problem for you that you would need more money? So the mismatch between those numbers actually means something. I mean, do you guys do anything like that, or what do you think?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and I'm going back to, I'm gonna take it from a little bit different angle here, is, man, the ideal thing, because you're probably, let's say your invoice, basically all your suppliers and that are invoicing you net 30. You want to see that number pretty damn close to 30. And, our philosophy and it still is today, that we pay our vendors, like we pay them on time, because the long-term effects of not doing that can be really dire for a business, because suddenly your costs are going to start going up and you don't know why. And worse than that is sometimes a vendor or contractor, because we've seen it with our customers and that before. We'll just go, no, we're not dealing with you anymore. When you're paying us 60 days, when we got people lined up willing to pay us sometimes cash at the, so take care of your vendors. Now, of course, don't pay early, because you're just letting your cash go out the door. If you're just trying to survive, I understand it may change things, but man, if you have any capacity, make sure you're paying your vendors, because it can come back to bite you otherwise. So.
Well, if you can determine the industry average, right? And you think industry average generally C players, but in this case, I always tell people that's where you want to be, because that's what the market expects. That's what your customers expect to pay in that amount of time, and that's what your vendors expect to get paid. Here's why I say manage it around the industry average, because if you get into a cash flow problem, you can pull that lever. Like, let's say I need more money. I can make a few phone calls and not make customers mad, right? Because normally I just let it go at the industry average, what everybody expects. But I can make a few phone calls, bring things in, or I can sit on an invoice a little bit longer on occasion, not every time, but on occasion, to give me that little bit of breathing room. So the industry average actually gives you room to maneuver on short-term basis. That's what I always talk about, is how to keep it to where you have room to maneuver.
And communication, that's the big thing, because it's amazing how long you might be able to stretch that out when you're talking with your customer, like your vendors, but also your customers. Keep the communication lines open when something's going to go a little out of the norm. And it can go an awful long way for you, especially if you've actually built relationships up. Like, that's the other thing is, oh, I've never talked to this person before, but now I'm going to go tell them, hey, can we pay you a little late? Relationships matter. Business is not between business, B2B. It's P2P. It's person to person. You're a person dealing with other people. And if you nurture and build relationships, you can have so much more flexibility than you ever thought, than just it's a paper transaction and it's faceless. So build those relationships, nurture those relationships, take that time. It'll go a long way for you.
Well, yeah, on the AP side, I mean, if you're consistently late, if they know you as being, no, that guy never pays, they have options on their side. They don't have to do business with you. You could lose a supplier.
Mm-hmm.
You could get worse pricing saying, yeah, we'll do business with them, but they're going to pay 10% more or 15% more. Or they could just start charging you fees, right? Just like, hey, you're paying extra for all this stuff. So these relationships matter.
Yeah. And if you're the one that always like religiously pays on time and you're talking with them, you're having coffee with them, when you run into a bind, they will go, like, more often than not, they will go through the wall for you because so many of their other clients aren't doing the same. And so it's, build those relationships up, pay whenever you can. Even around here, I know a lot of businesses, a lot of them are the bigger businesses. And I know there's a bean counter somewhere and they've, that are holding up payments. And it's kind of well known through the city and the province, which businesses hold their payments back, hold their money. And, all it does is build them a really bad reputation. And, it's going to come, it comes back to bite them. Even the big ones, it still comes back to bite them because people are just not that likely, that excited to work for them. Right.
Hey, here's a weird red flag that maybe you didn't know about, right? That bankers will go, oh, that's a red flag in that company where you might not be able to get a loan, right? Meaning that you're waited too long. Mm-hmm. If you ever put in an application or a pitch to somebody where you say, who's your team? Like, who's your team? Who's my chief, financial officer? Who's my chief technical officer? Who's my, whatever that you have, they want to know who the team is. Well, part of the reason they want to know who the team is because they're going to start measuring turnover in that team. And when they see turnover in key team members, there's an assumption that there's a bigger problem. Right.
Okay.
So,
interesting. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with cash flow, but it does have something to do with whether a bank will work with you because they're going to measure the turnover of key team members. If you got a vice president of sales and you're always turning them over, well, is it the position? Is it the sales position? Is it that person, or is it you? Right? Mm-hmm. Or are you just a bad, terrible manager, where you don't know how to drive sales? Mm-hmm. You don't know how to manage a sales leader. So key personnel turnover is a big deal to a bank because they want to see that stability and see that you run and operate as a team because they're banking on you being able to generate future funds.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. You're more dialed into the banks. You've had a lot more exposure to the banks than me, of course, now
you're going to tell me I'm on the bank side and I'm on their team.
You are. No, I know. Like I said, I've got some great bankers, and I also have had some experiences that haven't been overly terrific, and so I take everything with a bit of a grain of salt, but that's the thing is I'm always looking to have, that's where I really value those relationships and that performance, and knowing there's people I can turn to, like the value of that is so astronomical to a business. If you don't have that relationship with your banker, look to other banks. If you don't have the relationship, again, accountant, lawyer, all these professionals that can help you, make sure they're the right ones for you. It's not just that who happens to be closest or who, your friend recommended someone, blah, blah, blah. Make sure they're good. Make sure they're helping you because it'll make a massive difference for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that relationship is important, right? Because outside of just him being the salesman for the bank, he's also the quarterback for the bank for you, which means he should know all the services and be able to call the play. What's the right thing for Blaine and Dry Run at this time, right? What's the right Blaine for you and your or plan for you and your business at this time? He's the quarterback. He's the guy you count on to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
But you have to give him the right information. He's your advocate too. You can't walk in and go, hey, I need a loan. He goes, well, how much do you need? And you go, how much you give me? you can't. That's not a good way to apply for a loan. Matter of fact, that's the first thing you're telling the banker that you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that. So what I like to do is go in armed with the information. I get paid in this amount of time. I'm paying in that amount of time. I'm spending this much on average. As much as you know or you can speak to your numbers. Be able to tell that story. Use a product like Dry Run to say, here's what it looks like in the future. Even if I take on this loan with this debt service, I even modeled out a scenario for what my cash position looks like with the new debt service. The more information you can arm the banker with, the better he can prepare his statement to the loan committee to be able to get you that loan when you need it.
Yeah. And you know what you need and when, and how long you can survive, and what your options are. When you have the right team, like when you have the right, and these are, contractors for us. There are a lot of times where I'm sending emails and they're CCing and they're to all of my different advisors and professionals all at once. It's like, let's get everybody on the same page. Let's make sure and when you've got the right people, they're circled in and they're talking to each other and they're talking to you and they're coordinated to make sure your business is in the best position possible. That's important, really important.
So, all right. So, have you heard of the 5 C's of credit?
No.
All right. So, there's
Not
the
at all.
5 C's of credit. That these are the things that a bank evaluates you against, right? And I'll throw it out there. If you're listening to this and you're like going, I might want to apply for a loan in the future, or I got clients that want to, I have a checklist. All you got to do is email us through mikeandblaine.com. Say, hey, Mike, you talked about a checklist. I'll send it out to you through the website. All right. Yeah. So I got a checklist.
You post it on Facebook. Yeah.
I can post it on the website. So I got a checklist on how to prepare your loan application. But it covers these 5 C's of credit, right? 5 C's of credit is, character, collateral, capacity, capital, and conditions. So I'll kind of explain what those mean, right? Character is pretty easy, right? Because these 5 C's of credit are there to evaluate 2 things. Can you pay and will you pay? That's it, right? Can you pay is, do you generate enough money to actually make the loan payment? And will you pay is, do I trust that guy to make this loan payment? That's really what we're talking about. Yeah. So character is about you. Then we got, we'll say collateral, because everybody kind of knows collateral, where if you default, hey, what do I get? I can't just give you money for nothing. So what's the collateral that I get? Maybe it's your business, maybe it's a personal guarantee, maybe there's something that they're going to do to try to make sure that if you default, they're going to get something out of the deal. Yeah. Then you got capacity, right? Capacity is like, can you pay it? Not only that, capacity is also how serious are you about this loan? Meaning, are you willing to put your own skin in it? How much money are you going to, put down to make this thing happen? Right. So conditions are about all the terms of the loan, how long, the interest rate. You can negotiate all that stuff, right? So that's conditions. What was the last one I said? Collateral, capacity, conditions.
There's 5 of them. I remember 3.
I don't know. Collateral. There's another one. I'm forgetting it already. Collateral, capacity. I said all 5 of them. Now I'm missing one. Character,
capacity, collateral, conditions. There was something after conditions, and I can't remember what that was.
I don't know, man. Damn this beer.
You guys probably heard it. You heard the 5th one. You can probably read between the lines. Here's something that, and again, this comes down to it's like I treat our bank like. Oh, go ahead. You figured it?
Yeah. Well, I forget what it is, but it's about, can you pay? They're going to talk about, do you have enough money
to the capacity
to be able to pay to make the payment? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what that reminded me of is like I treat our bank like what they are, a supplier, right? And paying on time all the time. Like you said, paying those credit cards off. It's okay, paying those credit cards. They actually don't want you to pay a credit card because they make money off of it, but it helps your credit if you're paying off your credit cards, right? And if you're paying religiously all the time, what's amazing is that you just keep getting get pre-approved for all kinds of stuff. Get pre-approved for credit card, pre-approved for line of credit, increase in this, increase in that, one of the best ways to build up this this beachhead that you can go to is, like you said, when it's in good times and everything, make sure you're treating your bank like a absolute valued customer, paying our valued supplier, paying, because they will reward you. And you don't have to do anything. You just, I don't know what it's like down in the US, but it's like we get pre-approved and you get this increase on that. I didn't even ask for this stuff. It just keeps getting increased and this and that. And once you see that a few times, you realize, that's how you build this up, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I've always had just a blank credit card, meaning that never used it. It was always there just because. And I used it the minimum amount of times per year and paid it off immediately. But it's always been kind of like a last resort. I got that thing. You know, as a last resort, I have that thing to get me through until something else, I can fix something else.
Yeah. And you mentioned it before during the Silicon Valley banking thing, that, you should have a couple different accounts. So I like in different banks, in literally different banks. And guess what I have now? Different accounts in different banks. I've got all sorts of, I've got, a couple of credit cards. I only use one, just like you. I use one, but I got the other one, and the other one's got a really big limit, and they keep jacking it up. And so you have more and more of this capability and capacity. And some of that isn't relationships. Some of that is literally just make sure you're paying all on time, all the time. And that credit just keeps building up for you.
I just remember capital is the down payment, capacity is the, can you pay?
Ability to pay.
Yeah. Ability to pay. All right, dude, I knew I'm like going, why can't I remember that? Oh, beer.
And then, and the number one way is they'll look at, are you like the ability to pay and will you pay are kind of tied together, right? So if you keep paying all the time, no matter what, they don't even know where your money's coming from. But if you're paying all the time, you're going to build that equity up. You're going to build that trust up. And it's just, you have that capacity sitting there literally in the bank for you.
Got it. Hey, great discussion. I mean, can you believe that went that fast?
Yeah. And this was, I got to say, this one was a lot more, and probably because it falls right into this cash flow financy kind of space. There was way less bullshit in this one and way more like,
well, throw some bullshit in. Throw some bullshit. Throw some bullshit in if you want to do. Oh, by the way, Chiefs are playing the Broncos, and in true tradition, I mean, earlier this week, this is my bullshit part. Earlier this week, again, I beat Pat in bags. I don't think that he'll ever, be able to beat me in bags. I don't think so. I mean, it just seems like he can't.
So he is the Broncos of cornhole.
And guess what? Guess who they play today? The Chiefs play the Broncos. And guess who the Chiefs fan is?
Yeah, it's going to be an ugly game for Pat if he's a Broncos fan.
Ugly week. It's an ugly week for Pat. Neighbor Pat is who we're talking about. And he's still a beer sponsor. I don't think I gave him credit.
No, we better give him credit, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So he didn't come over with his own beer this time, but Weebert Brewery, Neighbor Pat did also sponsor our episodes with a cash donation. So thank you, Pat. Yeah, remember?
In addition to the beer jug that is about this big, it must have 5 gallons, and not 5 gallons.
I couldn't drink the whole thing.
There's a lot of beer there. That's a beauty. That's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you to Neighbor Pat. Thank you to Rachel Barnett and Gentle Frog. And if you haven't already, go to mikeandblaine.com, because there you can, and I'll turn it over to you.
Make sure you follow us. You like us. You subscribe to us. And you can go to mikeandblaine.com. You can buy us a beer. And it's like cheap sponsorship, man. It's like 1 beer a week, and we will talk about you. And we also even have a little bit of merchandise there if you want to get like a really cool Just Giving Her T-shirt, or the 2 kind of skull guys that you see. That we get some cool stuff there. So go check that out, and make sure you check again, subscribe so you catch all of our episodes.
Hey, you just gave her today.
Always. Oh, and my Canadiana will finally start to fade in about a month as I get settled into the U.S., and then you won't be able to make fun of me as much for a few months anyway.
Right on. See you soon.
All right. See you guys next week.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.